Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dwarven Discussions podcast for March 14th, 2014. Today we are going to be discussing World of Warcraft and many of the changes coming up with Warlords of Draenor. But first we will go into the sales for this week, starting with Tana.
Hello. Okay, so this week we have four decently good sales. One has been going on for a couple days, but obviously we haven't gotten into it yet. First up is the Groupies bundle, which will be in the description. It is a build your own bundle. It gives you the chance to select up to 8 different games for a varying amount of money. The minimum, if you select all of it, is $4. Guise of the Wolf, Castle Miner Z, Luxor 3, Legends of, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, Whitewash, Aviant, Lord of Twilight, Skyboard, and Power Up. As people keep buying the bundles, they're unlocking more, so if you buy at least one, check back periodically, you might be able to just grab another one for free. They've already unlocked Arson and Plunder, and next up will be Rival Tides in, looks like about 400 more bundles being sold. Second up is the Humble Weekly Sale, which will also be in the description. It is for Sega this time. I will say that Total War Shogun 2 is on there for a minimum of $15, but the others are $6 or lower. Alpha Protocol, Company of Heroes, the original game, Rome Total War, Hell Yeah, Wrath of the Dead Rabbit, I have no idea what that is, but it sounds funny as hell, Typing of the Dead Overkill, which is surprisingly a really fun game, and a really good way to learn how to type, by the way, Binary Domain, Renegade Ops, 10 Classic Sega Genesis Games Bundle, which I'm not going to list them all, you can look for yourself. Medieval 2 Total War. And then after that we have the Indie Gala Supreme Bundle, which will also be in the comment, or description, sorry. Minimum $1. The beat the average is currently at $5.59, so probably somewhere around $6 by the time someone watches this. For Battle Paths, Little Racer Street, Kami, probably Archery, Humanity Asset, Supreme Commander Forged Alliance, and Hostile Waters. There is also 3 future games to be unlocked for all beat the average. And then I will let Kelly take over for the last one.
And our last big deal to talk about for today is the Luck of the Irish deal with GOG.com. Now, I'm pretty sure I got stuck with talking about this one because I am a big Irishman with a giant red beard. Racist. But
You did
basically,
indeed.
GOG has a deal going on where several big games are 75% off, and you can pick up to 5 games that are up to 90% off, including games like Hotline Miami, Alan Wake, Fez, and so on and so forth. You can also, through their system, for $2, it'll be kind of like a lottery where you pay $2 and they'll select a random game, could be anything as far as I'm aware of, and you could get a really great game for $2. So if you want to gamble, you can go with that. If you want to pick from the list, you can pick up to 5 for up to 90% off. And then, of course, there are the normal sales. So that is GOG.com, and that will be listed in the information below.
Alright, so, returning from last week, because he's still at my house, we also have Vel still here.
Howdy, y'all.
That works. Alright,
Like we've said last week, I mean, we're really not too picky on guests. I mean, no offense, Phil.
Hey, you have to have comic relief somehow.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So, was there anything else we wanted to bring up?
Really, I mean, there's not much I can really think of before we really get into the main discussion. I can say that I had the chance to sit down and play South Park Stick of Truth to completion. And while our main topic today is about World of Warcraft, before we really get into the meat of the discussion, I just want to say, oh my god, that game was so well done. Like, absolutely amazing.
Apparently, only the PC one was completable for a while. They had to actually either get lucky to be able to complete it, or wait for the patch to go through on the Xbox 360, or was it Xbox? The Xbox and PlayStation one. I can't remember which console it was actually for, either the last gen or the current gen one. Um,
I'm pretty sure it was last gen, but I can say that I played on PC. It was buggy. There were a lot of bugs. There were times when certain characters and layers would disappear during a scene. So like you would like be in the middle of like a scene and then all of a sudden all the background props would vanish. Or all of a sudden you and a few characters would vanish and the rest would freeze. I mean, it has its bugs, but ignoring the bugs, it was such a good game. Like fantastic.
it to me, it's kind of expected for being a Ubisoft game. I've it's Obsidian and Ubisoft. Ubisoft is always known for releasing buggy as hell games, and Obsidian is Obsidian.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look past the bugs, which they were there, they weren't always super game breaking except for the save bug where the game would not recognize your save half the time, which is really annoying. So I had to make like a bajillion different saves. But the game literally felt like an episode of South Park. It was so perfectly done. The story was well written. The characters are funny. It literally felt like just a really long, interactable version of the show. And honestly, if there's a game I'm going to recommend, that one. Like South Park Stick of Truth is absolutely recommended if you're a fan of South Park. One thing to note though is that the console versions apparently are heavily censored, which I can see why, because I don't really want to spoil anything, but like somewhere around the midpoint of the game, there's a fight that takes place with some pretty explicit stuff happening in the background. But it's South Park, and really the best way to enjoy it is uncensored.
Yeah, if if you're young and your parents don't let you watch the movie, they or not just the movie, but the show, they probably shouldn't let you play that because
Yeah, it's
it takes stuff from the show and the movies and just knocks it up to 11.
yeah, it goes far like above and beyond at times. Like and I think that's for the best. Yeah, it limits the audience, but I mean, this is South Park we're talking about, and I don't think that anyone who likes the show would be appreciative of a game that's like super watered down and super tame because, oh, we can't do this and we can't do that. But anyway, that's one of the games I played this weekend, and I just wanted to bring it up before we got into the meat of the podcast. South Park Stick of Truth. It took a very long time to get out. It was delayed several times, but it's out now, and it is 100% worth the buy. Moving on, uh, today's primary topic is about World of Warcraft Warlords of Draenor. Starting off, I actually did a solo discussion, commentary, rant, whatever you want to call it, about pre-orders in Warlords of Draenor and the content gap from patch 5.4 to 6.0. So, moving into that topic, we have received a blue message saying that Warlords of Draenor could And here's the primary thing. I can't stress it enough. A lot of people are taking this as like the final date, but that's not really like the finalized date at all. Basically, they're saying that Warlords of Draenor will be out before or on December 20th of 2014. So it's possible that the game could take all the way up to December to get released, which really you can't push it past Blizzard since they've always been known for like not wanting to release a game until it's absolutely perfect. In fact, I mean they've scrapped entire games, StarCraft Ghost and Warcraft Adventures, because they felt that it did not meet their standards. So this isn't really anything new for Blizzard. A lot of people seem to be taking stumbling over my words. A lot of people seem to be taking this as this is the date it's going to come out on. It's not going to come out before that, which isn't true at all. It's most likely going to come out before December 20th. So what are your opinions on Blizzard making that statement in general? Because it's obviously a statement that's got a lot of people up in arms.
Well, to back it up just a little bit, not releasing until it's perfect. All I gotta do is bring up Diablo 3. Diablo 3's release was just horrible. The game itself was okay, but the mechanics behind the login script and the whole always online DRM pissed a whole lot of people off. But as for the comment of not releasing until, or possibly releasing until December, I'm actually not all that surprised. They almost always release a WoW expansion at or around Christmas.
Speaking about Diablo 3 real fast, you didn't enjoy Era Simulator 2000 whenever Diablo 3 came out?
No, I didn't. I didn't enjoy sitting there for 12 hours waiting to be able to actually log into the game that I just paid, I think it was like $120 for.
Well, I mean, you gotta think of it this way. I mean, think about Blizzard's side of things. How else are they gonna get to test out that big old fancy error message if, we didn't do it for them? I mean, come on. Think about what you have missed out on if you had never seen Error 32.
37.
Wasn't it 32?
37 and 3007.
Wow, I do not remember Diablo 3's launch at all. Jesus.
Yeah. But no,
I guess I was really scarred by it.
Yeah, blocked it out of your memory. But yeah, I'm honestly not surprised. I mean, it's always been between, like, I don't know, late November, early January that they always release their expansions. I mean, hell, how many times have I sat out in the fucking snow to pick up a WoW expansion?
Oh yeah, I hear you there. I mean, but that's really, when you get down to it, the midnight releases are just part of the experience. I mean, going out there, especially if you got costume, wearing your costume, talking to like people you don't even know, but who share in the same interest of the game. And honestly, it's kind of funny because half the time you get down there and the people who are like talking about the game are just like so full of crap. Like I remember the Burning Crusade midnight release, because they add jewel crafting, right? And we knew that Stalkadian was coming. There were so many people who were like talking just complete like bullshit out of their ass about like, oh yeah, you're gonna get like these types of gems, and it's gonna be like this, and it's gonna be like that. It's like, oh, okay, yep. You have no idea what you're talking about, but okay, continue on.
Yeah,
I would like to. Sorry, I'd like to bring up a quick question because I'm also good at that. Do you feel that we are losing something with the loss of the midnight release, as so many people are buying digital copies nowadays?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Very much so.
Don't even get me started.
Because I remember going to an early release at a GameStop that I had to walk 1.5 miles from my school to get to in snow. Yay, fun for me. And I met 4 people from my college that I knew otherwise that I had no idea played World of Warcraft.
The midnight releases, I think. I think I'll bring this up when we go into the whole physical versus digital thing later on. But I really think they should do more midnight releases and have, I don't know, supply the store with some kind of bonus to give to people. I mean, if you buy a digital copy on like Amazon or something, you still get the same stuff in that physical copy as you would in the store. If you had, or if they did like a midnight release bonus inside or with that, I think it would really drive physical sales higher.
See, here's the thing though, is that really Blizzard's responsibility, or is that like GameStop or wherever you went's responsibility? I live in a small town, okay, and we used to have 3 GameStops up here. We're down to 2, and I'm sure it's not going to be long until we're going to be down to 1. GameStop's, having some troubles right now. We've done midnight releases since the Burning Crusade. I mean, the Burning Crusade was the very first midnight release I went to. And they still do midnight releases, but it seems like they have to have a quota of so many people who've ordered physically to consider doing a midnight release, which for Mist of Pandaria, we didn't meet that number. They actually did a Dark Souls midnight release not too long ago. The problem is like, it's all based on the store. Our store, we had posters and like giant cardboard boxes and like even cutouts, and we do like trivia. So we'd be letting the store about half an hour before like the actual game is available to purchase, and the store manager would like have a big list of like trivia, and he'd start saying like who was the leader of the Shadow Council. Someone shout out and they get like a poster or a T-shirt, and like it's the biggest thing about a midnight release is not getting the game. It's about the experience of socializing with your fellow gamers, with being out there and like just part of this big event, which hypes you up for when you actually get back and you get into your game and then you start playing with your friends.
Yeah,
And
it's the social experience. You meet people from different realms or different servers or whatever. You get to actually talk to people. You get to find out who's a complete idiot because they're talking out of their ass, like telling people, oh yeah, if you just go up to area 52 and turn left out the door, you get a free rocket mount. No, you don't.
yeah, it's always fun. That's probably one of my favorite parts is when you're standing there and you're just listening to someone like, you have no idea what's happening in this expansion, do you? Well, you're gonna be surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we had one person. We didn't have a midnight release for Mists either. That's why I don't have a physical copy. I only would have bought it if they were doing a physical release. I pre-ordered, but then I canceled because they said they weren't, and then I just did it digital. But the last one I went to was the Cataclysm one, and they were like, yeah, the last WoW one. How's that? I went to was the Cataclysm one, and some guy was trying to oh god, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember what he was talking about, but he was telling everybody that, this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and if you went here, you could get this, and if you went there, that, you could blah, blah, blah. And then one person, like in the middle of the line, just piped up, are you playing on a private server? And he was not allowed back in the store.
That's fun. Dude, social justice, I tell you.
I know. It's great.
I don't know, it's just, there's times when someone's like, and if it's a kid, I'm not going to say anything. I mean, come on. We're all kids. We all made up bullshit when we were children at one point or another.
Yeah,
whatever. But when it's like, when it's a balding adult who smells like BO from halfway across the store, has no understanding of what personal space is, and they're just making up like wild, like crazy BS stories. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
What's the point?
there is.
It's like the tabloids of the gaming community.
Yeah, something like that. Oh god, wouldn't that be funny? Just walk into a GameStop, find a magazine rack, and you just see like tabloids for World of Warcraft. Bullshit completely made up, but funny as hell.
World of Warcraft to introduce purchasing full epic heroic gear for $5.99.
They wouldn't do it for $5.99, but that does open up another question. Is some of the things they're releasing pay to win with the online expansion, that is?
Oh god, their new marketplace thing. I will say that I've seen, like, if you log in and actually open the marketplace, the only thing I've really seen in there is like mounts, pets, skins, stuff like that. Nothing game breaking. I don't really consider mounts, pets, and skins to be pay to win. That's more like, pay to look different.
Cosmetics.
Yeah, pay for cosmetics. It's the same thing as like buying a skin on League. It doesn't really change the game other than visually.
It's kind of interesting how much they're pushing a cash out, because World of Warcraft's a pay-to-play game, and it's probably the single biggest, and as far as I'm aware, only real functioning pay-to-play game on the market right now. Everything else has gone free-to-play for the most part. There are a few games that are pay-to-play, but their subscription, like the pool of players they have, is just like so minuscule that it's really hard to make a comparison to a large-scale game like World of Warcraft. It's really disturbing to me to see when I log into my character select screen, there's now on the bottom left, the largest button on there is Shop, which is highlighted in gold and stands out. And the things they're selling in the shop, I'm fine with mounts, I'm fine with pets, whatever. And the price they've got going for them, like $25 for mount, sure. People want that mount, whatever. What disturbs me is seeing transmog armor, but like comparatively to say Guild Wars, where you can get a whole set for like, gosh, it's been so long, like, what is it, $10, $15? Through World of Warcraft, you can get one helm for $15. That is price gouging out the ass. And the helms aren't even that good because they don't really match with very many transmogs. So that right there is a big problem too.
Well, I then bring up the question, a lot of other games, such as EverQuest and EVE, have an item that you can buy in real life for game time and sell it on the market with no problems.
Yeah, Eve has the Plex and EQ has the Chronos.
And WoW's got the game cards, which are frequently sold in trade chat, believe it or not.
Is that within the WoW EULA, though?
No, it's against the terms of service.
Yeah, it's not condoned by WoW, and you can actually get banned for doing it if the GMs actually give a fuck.
One thing that was being sold, and I haven't seen them on the auction house in a long time now that I think about it, was Recruiter Friend mounts. I believe they used to be BOE. I'm not really sure, but I remember they used to be sold in the auction house, so like you'd see the Obsidian Nightwing mount for anywhere between 15 to 40,000 gold, depending on your server. But
yeah, they're not anymore.
I think we're getting. Sorry, go ahead.
When you get a recruiter friend bonus, when you log in, it pops up. Hey, you're eligible to receive this, and this. Pick one, and then you pick it, click OK, and it automatically applies it to your mount list.
Oh, does it? Oh, that's
Yep.
cool. But really, we're kind of getting off topic a little bit. We were talking about pay to win, and I think the most blaring addition to the Blizzard store recently that a lot of people are saying is pay to win is the level 90 character boosts. Now, with Warlords of Draenor, if you pre-order the game, if you get physically, you'll get your free 90 boost when the game launches. If you get digitally, you've already gotten your level 90 boost. But in addition, through the Blizzard store, you can buy additional level 90 character boosts for $60, which gives you a full set of 22 slot bags, gives you a full set of 483 green armor, which is just enough to really go onto the Timeless Isle. Well, I'm going to say that and people are going to be like, I went on Timeless Isle with 325 gear, derp. But it's enough to like be able to easily quest and do whatever you want, and within like an hour you'll upgrade to Epic 496. So like the gear is not even really a big deal.
Well,
but you also get
the what was it, like 483 or something like that?
Yep.
Yeah, 483 greens would be equivalent to the greens that you're going to get starting the next expansion. So it's basically just starter greens for the next expansion. It's
Well, I see where you're coming from there, but if they waited to release it until, a couple weeks, maybe even a month before the new expansion, I could understand. But the new expansion, you were saying, isn't likely to be released until December. I mean, my math isn't amazing, but that seems like 9 months away.
yeah. And it's actually, I kind of feel like we're all over the place, but that's actually something I want to talk about too, is people who are getting their boosts to 90 like right now compared to people who have to wait until the expansion comes out and such and so forth. But as I was going on about the free 90s, you get, through boosted 90, you get full set of 22 slot bags, you get 483 green items, you get all your mount training except for 310 flying. You get everything else. Northern flying, Old World flying, Pandaria flying, 280% flying. So that's like literally just that alone is, gosh, that's gotta be like close to what, 10,000 gold?
more.
If you, yeah, and if the character you boosted was 60 or above, in addition to that, you freaking get your professions boosted up to 600. You get your professions maxed, which, depending on the professions, that's thousands more gold. Like, the amount of pretty much free gold you're being given to that character is absurd. Like, that's the part that blows me away the most. And it's not pay to play, or excuse me, it's not pay to play. It's not pay to win. It's ease of access. But the amount of ease of access is absolutely astounding. Like, the amount of gold it would take to get all that is absurd. Like, how much time you're cutting out.
Well, I would like to pose the question, at what level are we saying something is pay to win, and what level is it pay for ease of access? Because when talking about pay to win, one can't help but hear Guild Wars, I believe it's 2 mentioned. And if you can get the stuff in-game on your own, is it still considered, or even in a raid, is it still considered pay to win? Or is that ease of access? Because in WoW, you can get this stuff on your own. However, the lack of amount of time you have to spend on it, where's the line between ease of access and pay to play? Or, sorry, pay to win.
That's kind of getting a bit off topic, but I would put pay to win as something that's paying for something that is equal or greater to the top obtainable stuff. Paying for ease of access would be, oh look, you're instantly boosted to 90. You don't have to spend, 20 something hours doing it. You got your professions up. Okay, whatever. But, if it gave you for the next, I don't know, pay $1.99 for this potion that makes it so you get, you can go higher than the maximum in your stats, or pay $1.99 to get 20 more attack power. That's pay to win. But just getting boosted up to the cap, that's just pay for ease of access.
You see, here's the thing. As long as you can farm everything in-game, as long as you can get it without paying a cent, that, in my opinion, means it's not pay to win. The moment they introduce something that gives an unfair advantage, like say, oh hey, if you pay us $75, we'll give you legendary items that you can't get in game. They're stronger than anything you can acquire normally. With something like that, I think that's when it becomes pay to win. But I feel, and honestly, it disgusts me to say this, but I feel that they could sell heroic raiding gear and still not be pay to win because technically it's something you can still earn in game. And it disgusts me to say that, and I freaking pray with everything in me to every dwarven god out there that they never go that far. But then, by comparison, something that is pay to win is look at a game like Maple Story, is because the only one I can think of off the top of my head, where to get the best in-game gear for the longest time, you had to pay money, and it was random. And that's when it becomes pay to win, is because the only way to acquire the best of the best is by paying money.
Yeah, same thing with Star Trek Online. You cannot obtain your highest tier ship without giving them at least $40.
So then, is a game like EverQuest that is marketing itself as free to play with a subscription, is that pay to win because you have to pay to unlock something more, like in RuneScape as well?
That would be considered freemium. Free with premium benefits.
See, but if we were to look at it that way, wouldn't that be looking at, say, World of Warcraft and going, in expansions pay to win? Because without paying for an expansion, you don't have access to, like, the top-end stuff?
You could, but I'm pretty sure... I mean, like, that's pretty much just market standard. That's not something anybody doesn't expect. It's like, oh, they released an expansion. It took a lot of development hours and a lot of development money to produce all this content. And it's not just a content update where they release a dungeon. It's a completely different, usually a completely different continent with entire storylines and everything.
Yeah, I believe that with a very open pay-to-play game, expansions are quite expected, and those familiar with pay-to-play are familiar with the requirements of buying the expansions.
Well, I'm just saying, by comparison, like, gating off content. I mean, EverQuest is a free-to-play game, so you can't expect, like, and when I say expansion, I just mean, like, adding on to an expansion of content to be as massive or diverse as a pay-to-play game like World of Warcraft. Like, gating stuff behind, like, a small paywall, like $5 to unlock this, $5 to unlock that. I mean, is it actually giving you something, or is it something that you're just getting unlocked and then you have to earn?
EverQuest expansions are actual expansions. They add new lands, they add new gear, they add new bosses, they add new raids, blah, blah, blah. I mean, if you want to go that way, I mean, Eve has expansions, but they're all free.
Well, when we started this conversation, when we went from World of Warcraft to EverQuest, what exactly were you talking about, Vel? Because, like, I was trying to expand and say that really can that with EverQuest be considered, or is that more along the lines of it kind of falls under the category of, say, an expansion pack or DLC?
Well, I like Tana's explanation that it's free to play with premium benefits. I think that would categorize EverQuest a whole lot better than free to play or even pay to play. And I think that if we set that as a separate category, it could well explain the question of pay to win. It's not so much pay to win then, it's just the difference between free to play and pay to play.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure every company in the world likes free to pay. You're free to give us money.
Oh yeah, you are always free to pay us.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be great. Just walk up and be like, "Here, I have this empty shoebox. It's free to pay. I will give you the shoebox if you give me $90. You don't get to keep the shoebox though. You have to give it back."
Yeah, you're just renting it, and just put a Michael Jordan or something sticker on it. Someone will rent it for $90, no problem.
Oh God, so it would totally be going off topic, and I want to bring this up while we're here and while we're discussing it. Do you think that we're going to get to a time in the gaming industry where instead of just buying content, like, oh, you can pay us so much money to unlock like a new zone and some raid content, do you ever think we're going to get to the point where it's like, hey, if you don't want to buy it, you can rent it. So you can pay us like $3 a month and we'll let you use this like bonus content, but if you stop paying, you lose all access to it. Do you think we're ever going to see that in like gaming? Because that, just when we were talking about like uh, the freemium and like the shoebox and free to play, and I just thought of that and like my head hurts just thinking about that because with like the companies that are producing MMOs nowadays, like I could honestly see somebody trying that.
I can actually see it quite clearly with games like RuneScape I mentioned earlier. It's a game that all of us have probably played, and most of us are too ashamed to actually admit it.
Unfortunately.
Or even EverQuest itself, since we were talking about that. It has a number of things that come with its subscription that you can't use unless you are subscribed to it. Like the AA system, once you get over a certain amount, you can only get more if you continue paying the subscription.
Well, I think he's talking you obtain an item, but you can't use it once you're subscribed.
Prestige.
Yeah. Okay, so...
Don't you have characters on EverQuest that you can't access because you're no longer gold?
No, that was fixed. That was actually
No.
a bug, and it wasn't my characters, it was my bag slots. They limited the amount of bags that you can have unless you're gold for a while, but they removed that. But no, like EverQuest has prestige items where if you're gold and you obtain them, you can use them. But once your gold subscription wears out, they become flagged as non-active. You still have them, but they don't benefit you in any way other than filling up an armor slot or a bag slot. And I can actually list a couple games that are older than that by about a decade that actually have things like that. You brought up MapleStory. MapleStory has stuff where, hey, you can give us $5 and we'll give you a pet that lasts 30 days. Or, what was it? It's been so long, I can't remember.
Transmog gear.
Yeah.
Like you could buy gear that changes your appearance, and it lasts like 90 days, and then you have to pay it again. Like that is a good point. And I completely spaced that.
Yeah.
That's a business practice that I hope that Blizzard never adopts.
That's a business practice that I hope nobody ever readopts, because I've played several games where it's like, here, you can access this character for as long as you want to keep giving us $5 a month.
Yet we still do that with games like World of Warcraft or other pay-to-play games.
Oh, that's...
Should we just force them instead to call it a pay-to-play game rather than a free-to-play if we want to make that distinction?
There's a big difference between pay-to-play, where you're paying for the service to play the game, and free-to-play with completely ludicrous, hey, we're trying to make this pay-to-play, but not. Because those aren't even freemium benefits. You're not, paying them a monthly fee for this, and this. You're paying $5 per month per item. So, like, if you deck your character out in a couple of these games, it's costing you $100-something a month.
Yeah, there's a reason that free-to-play games and freemium games make so much money, is because with a pay-to-play game, for the longest time, but Blizzard's starting to double dip, it's been you give us a standard monthly fee, and you're entitled to new content and this and that. Now, like if you look at free-to-play games like MapleStory, I've known people who've dropped over like $120 in a few hours on that game, just because it's the way it works. I mean, you spend like a whole bunch of money. You spend like $50 on making your character look cool. You spend money on getting a pet, which is like say $5. Then on top of that, if you want that pet to actually be good, you need a meso magnet so it picks up mesos. You need an item, I forget what the thing's called, but picks up items for you. Then you need to get like binoculars and boots or whatever for your pet so he'll automatically run over to items instead of just falling behind you. And like all that stuff adds up, and at the end of the day you spent like $100 on that game for a whole bunch of stuff, whereas with like a pay to play game, the way the system was originally meant to be was you buy the game, you give us a monthly payment that covers our server expenses, that pays for our development team to produce new content, and you're guaranteed to get like new content through your monthly payment. That's what
Yeah.
you're entitled to. And Blizzard's really started double dipping with the cash shop now. It's like, okay, well, you can only get this mount through the cash shop. You can only get this pet through the cash shop, which actually that brings up a good point. For the longest time, pets were vanity only. Now World of Warcraft has pet battling in the game. Could you say that buying pets on the Blizzard store and using them in pet battling is buying power?
The way you could distinguish that one is the power of the pet. If it is stronger than any other pet, then that would be a pay-to-win instance. If it is of equal strength, just has a different look to it, then you could say that it's not pay-to-win,
The ones
using our previous definition.
that you buy off the Blizzard store are classified as rare, so they're always blue quality, but any pet in the game is going to be able to be blue. So really the only thing you're buying is a skill set which shares the same skill set with any other type of that thing. So if it's mechanical, it's going to share the mechanical skill set.
That's not true at all. And a good example is the Grunty pet through StarCraft 2, the Mini Thor, or excuse me, what was Grunty from? That's BlizzCon. Grunty through BlizzCon, Mini Thor through StarCraft 2, and the Baneling through Heart of the Swarm. Those all have unique abilities that other pets do not have at all.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not any stronger than the other things. They're just a different skin, basically.
Well, that does bring up the question of, does a pet specific to BlizzCon really count as pay-to-win? Because it's similar to GM events in EverQuest, and I'm sure other games have similar things where, I mean, you're not just throwing them your credit card and saying, hey, I should totally get this free shit. Well, not free, but I should totally get this OP shit. It's more of you're going to something really social, like going to a Magic the Gathering tournament and everybody gets a free specific card that they can only get from there. What do we want to consider that pay to win or not?
Honestly, the more I think about this, this could literally be a podcast in it of itself because this is something that can be really debated like heavily all day, and we honestly have a lot more to discuss. So this is probably something we should wrap up. Like that's a good point, and I would love to discuss that further, but there's only so much time we have in our podcast before like we have a 6-hour podcast for people to listen to,
Yeah,
which is
we're already about 40 minutes in.
yeah. So, and Taz already got do a lot of editing, so like a 6-hour podcast worth of editing probably won't be fun for him either.
No, probably not.
Anyway, really, it's a debatable discussion. Something that we could easily do later on. We could easily do a whole podcast on pay to play, freemium, free to play, and so on and so forth. But our today's discussion is supposed to be about Warlords of Draenor, so I'm going to move things along a little bit, and let's talk about the racial changes. So, with Warlords of Draenor, they've said that the old racials from way back when are starting to feel a little dated compared to the funner racials of the Worgen, the Goblin, and the Pandaren. So, with a lot of changes, like the removal of hit and expertise from Warlords of Draenor, they've gone through and they've redone a lot of the racials. I've got a list up here, which I'm going to read off real quick. Blood Elves, Arcane. Oh, good lord. Arcane Acuity? God, that doesn't sound right at all.
Acuity.
Arcane Acuity. Listen here, my friend. I'm a dwarf. My primary skills are drinking beer and scratching my ass. I don't care what the Blood Elves call their sissy, fanciful magics.
Do you have a battle axe? Otherwise, it doesn't count.
Arcane Acuity, a new racial passive that increases their critical strike chance by 1%. And here's something important to know is there are no more breakpoints. Those are gone. So your haste and your crit can continue to rise to like extreme numbers, and there won't be like once you get to a certain point, like you start getting less per point. So you're gonna consistently get the full value from haste and crit and such and so forth in Warlords of Draenor. So 1% is a lot. So they get a baseline 1% crit chance. Arcane Torrent now restores 20 runic power for Death Knights, up from 15, 1 holy power for Paladin, or 3% mana for Mage, Priests, and Warlocks, up from 2%. So overall, they've got a buff. Nothing really important because they're freaking disgusting, frilly, nobody cares about elves.
Yeah, they're blood
Elves
elves,
suck.
but I like my elves, but those ones can go die in a fire.
By your Death Knight?
Yes. Or my shaman, or my
Okay.
druid, or my paladin, or my mage.
Something to state here is that Tana and Vel are alliance players. Me, I've gone to both sides. I have a moo cow, which Tana absolutely hates and probably wishes he could kill, but thankfully we have a whole server separating us.
I've got myself a Blood Elf specifically so I can kill people on the Alliance that have pissed me off on my main.
Nice.
I just call in
But
friends.
there may or may not be some alliance favoritism in our discussions. Just a fair warning.
No, never.
Never, no. Draenei got a massive change, like an absolutely massive one. So
Yeah.
with hit being removed, heroic presence has been redesigned to no longer give 1% hit. Instead, it increases strength, agility, and intellect, scaling with character level. And I believe somewhere a blue posted saying that it was about 300 at level 90. So 300 strength, agility, and intellect to Draenei.
That's equal to a good flask.
That's equal to about food buff, I'd say, because isn't like food buffs 300 of X stat for an hour, and flasks are like 1,000.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, equal to a good food buff.
Passively at all times.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you get a character like, I don't know, a shaman, enhancement shaman, which benefits from agility, and I believe Ent still gives spell power, that's like a double bonus.
Yeah, but most of the shaman abilities are actually going off of if your enhancement it changes to, instead of going off of spell power, it goes off of attack power, or whichever is higher.
Yeah, it's been since the Burning Crusade since I've really played enhancement, so I wouldn't know. Uh, Gift of the Naru has been changed to 5 second duration, down from 15. So you're still getting the full amount that was healed, but now in a much quicker time frame, which is pretty good because honestly, when Gift of the Naru came out in the Burning Crusade, it was very underwhelming. I can say this personally as a Draenei enhancement shaman. Gift of the Naru sucked.
I'm an enhancement shaman with like 7k hit points. It's gonna heal me for 3% of my total health.
Yeah, because it wasn't like a percentage of your max health back then. It was a set number like each tick, and it was really poorly like skilled.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was basically if you were a Draenei in a raid, that wasn't even on your bar. It was useless.
Yeah. Moving on to gnomes. Gnomes
What?
had
Skipping
a
dwarves?
change to expansive. Oh, we saved the best for last on this discussion.
Yes.
It's not called Dwarven Discussions for nothing. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Okay. Gnome, expansive mind. Go.
So this is one that you're actually very excited for. Is that
Yes.
Expansive Mind is no longer just mana. It now increases your mana, energy, rage, and runic power, depending on what class you are. Obviously, you're not going to have all those at the same time, by 5%, instead of only increasing maximum mana. So, really, now it's a bonus that benefits every class.
And I play a gnomish death knight. 5% more runic power. Blood decay.
Yeah.
Convergence. Permanent.
Yes. And then Escape Artist has cooldown reduced to 1 minute. That's pretty good. That's 30 seconds off of it.
Yeah.
Short Blade Specialization, which was 1% expertise, has been replaced with Nimble Fingers, which, with the new changes to Blood Decays, which I don't know if you've really been upkeeping with that, haste is like your primary stat as a Blood Dank. No, it's Mastery. Shit. Yeah, wait,
Yeah.
is it Mastery or Haste?
Mastery.
Well, I've just made a fool of myself. I don't know DK.
Mastery, haste, crit, and then insert other stuff here.
Yeah, which is really weird to think about, that defensive stats are no longer really like looked after for tanks, that now you want like mastery or haste. Paladins use haste. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Well, as a blood decay tank, you really didn't give a fuck about like dodge or parry, because as a blood decay tank, you were parry capped just out of talents, and you didn't want to dodge. So you just, like back in Lich King when they were first released, it was stamina over everything, and then add a little bit of parry, and you were good. Everything else is just gravy.
Yeah. Anyway, 1% haste is what gnomes get now. And like I said, now that there's no longer any breakpoints, that your haste rating is not going to get like worse the more you have, that there's no real limit. 1% is a pretty big deal. So, moving on to goblins, they had their 1% haste changed from just attack speed or spell haste. Now it's 1% generalized haste. Humans, mace specialization and sword specialization have been removed. The human spirit. This is actually up there with the Draenei and really interesting. The human spirit is no longer a 3% increase to spirit, and now increases 2 secondary stats. That's haste, crit, mastery, by an amount scaling with the character level. You can choose 2 secondary stats it increases. So you could choose, like, I want my crit and I want my haste increased, or I want my mastery and I want my crit increased.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting on how they do that. Are they going to like roll it into the talent selector or something? I don't know.
I'm thinking that's gonna be like, maybe it's gonna be like poisons or like portals, where I'll like open up like a little menu and you just like activate or deactivate them.
Yeah, maybe it's a grouped list where it's like, hey, you have these 2 buffs, and then you click one off and hit another one or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Still, that's, along with the Draenei, it's a pretty big boost. A lot of people actually been saying that the Alliance are finally getting some buffs that they've really needed, comparatively to the Horde, who have been getting somewhat nerfs or not nearly as heavy buffs as everyone else. So it's actually kind of interesting to see. One thing with humans that there was a lot of debate over was crap. I forgot. What was it? Every man for himself. Their trinket.
Yeah.
That's something that Blizzard hasn't really talked about yet because they're still doing internal discussions on it. And I'm going to be interested to see like what's going to happen with that because for the longest time, and it's really honestly it's PvP, but it's also PvE situational. It's a extra trinket for humans, which with the new talents, it'll be interesting to see what happens to that.
Well,
But
the undead have basically the exact same thing. It's just called what is it, Will of the Forsaken or something like that?
well, Will the Forsaken gets you out of fears and charm, but every man for himself gets you out of snares, roots, fears, charm, anything that causes a loss of control of your character.
Mm. See, I thought the Will of the Forsaken was basically just carbon copy the human one because the undead were human at one point.
It was, I believe, like way back in the day, it was a lot similar. Like they were pretty much like carbon copies, like you said. Like not exactly, but they used to be a lot closer together back then. But the human racial's like so far above and beyond the undead racial now that's kind of really hard to compare the two.
Hmm.
The only bonus that the undead have, I believe, is that the human, every man for himself, shares a cooldown with the PvP trinket, whereas Will the Forsaken only puts PvP trinkets on a 30-second cooldown. So technically, you've got an extra get out, fear, and charm, but it doesn't work on everything that the human cooldown does.
Okay,
So
that
you
makes more
still
sense.
need a PvP trinket.
That makes more sense.
Night Elves had a really interesting change, actually. Uh, Starting with the first one, which isn't like that big, but quickness now increases movement speed by 2% in addition to increasing dodge chance by 2%. That's
Yeah, that's going to be interesting,
that's interesting.
especially for like hunters who kite constantly. It's going to be harder to catch the fuckers.
Well, think about druids who like,
Oh yeah.
especially as a tank druid, dodge is like your big stat. 2% is going to be massive, and then like movement speed.
Yeah, that's. Oh god, my druid's going to even be harder to kill in arenas. Oh
uh,
god, the tertiary stats. Oh, I'm stacking movement speed. I know what I'm doing. Kitty cat, go!
and since there's not going to be any breakpoints, it's going to be interesting to see like exactly how fast you can get. But here's the real interesting one. Touch of a Loon is a new passive which increases haste by 1% at nighttime, but critical strike chance by 1% at daytime. That to me seems like something that's not going to stick around to the final like build of Warlords of Draenor.
Or be changed / removed in the first raid patch.
It's because really it's going to change because 1%, like I said, is a big thing in Warlords of Draenor. 1% is a lot. Having a character that's going to benefit from haste more than crit or crit more than haste, it's really going to limit when your character is going to be at his peak. Are you going to be stronger during the day or are you going to be stronger during the night? Like, I get what they're doing and I like it. It's an interesting idea, but what turns out to be interesting on paper when you put into the game as a mechanic is really going to be more annoying than anything.
Yeah, especially since, a lot of raiders only raid within a certain time frame. So like, oh yeah, we only raid between 8 and 12. Well, that's technically considered night, depending on what server you're on. So,
Hold on. Does World of Warcraft go one day in game is one day in real life?
Yes.
Or
Hmm.
okay, that could definitely be an issue.
Yeah, it's a 1-to-1 timing scale for their night and day. And it's dependent on your server's location. So if your server is in Eastern Time, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to be on the same time scale in real life if you're also in Eastern Time. So if it's 7 p.m.
Yeah,
where
which
you are,
when you
it's going to be 7 p.m. in the game.
Well, if
when
they
you're in
have
game,
a trinket for, let's say, one haste in the morning, one crit at night, so long as they have a trinket that does the exact opposite, I think that would be a fair balance.
It's not a trinket, it's a racial. It's a fixed
Oh,
value.
racial.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. That one could be a little difficult.
Yeah,
that's why I'm thinking. Like, it's like it makes sense because I mean, if you look at lore, night elves, had shadow meld at night, and they were different at night than they were at day because they worship Elune, who is the moon goddess. That's I think that's what they're trying to go for, something lore friendly and interesting. But I think really it's just something that looked good on paper, and then when they actually like put it in the game and see people using it, it's not gonna be interesting or fun.
I have a proposed fix/change to it. Make it a triggered, where by default it has haste, and you can trigger it to be a permanent passive crit instead.
Ooh, something you can actively choose to swap between.
Yeah, like how they had the original werewolf one, where you had um, haste as human and crit as werewolf, and then they said, fuck it, we're done with that, and just made it a constant crit, and anytime you enter combat, you go into werewolf form.
That'd be interesting. That's something I forgot about the war game back when they were in develop. That's interesting. That would be cool to see. Uh, but moving on, orcs, they got kind of gypped. So axe specialization, which was 1% expertise, was removed, and hardiness, which is their hardiness. Hardiness has been nerfed so many times. Back in the day, it used to be a 25% chance to just ignore a stun, which was absolutely absurd in PvP, especially against a stun-heavy class like a rogue. They changed it to reduces the duration of a stun to 25%. Then over the years, they've nerfed it down. It is currently 15% reduced duration from stuns. In Warlords of Draenor, it's going to be a 10% reduced duration of stun. It's
It's kind of a nerf, but I mean, really in PvP, stuns usually don't last more than like a second and a half to 2 seconds. So, unless someone's really fucking up, you're not really going to notice much of a change.
I will say 10% on a 6-second stun, because I've had rogues who've cheap shot me, and I have been stunned for much longer than like a second or half a second. Even then, 10% on like a 6-second stun, that's like 0.6 of a second. That's gonna be really minuscule, even 15%. So it's not much of a nerf, but it's kind of a bummer to see like characters like Draenei and humans gain like really cool racials, and like even something as gimmicky as the Night Elf racial, and then you're an orc and it's just like, well, you're just losing stuff.
Yeah, I can see that, but I mean, you're literally going from like 0.7 seconds to 0.6 seconds, kind of something like that. It's not really much, if any, of a change, and most people aren't going to notice it due to latency.
Yeah, exactly. Once you pair in latency, it's really not that big of a thing. But moving on to Tauren, your favorite race in the game.
To harass and
To
eat.
eat.
Nom nom Tauren burgers.
Brawn, a new racial passive that increases critical strike bonus, damage, and healing done by 2%. So it's not the chance, but it's the actual damage and healing. Endurance, this is the one I think is pretty cool. now it increases stamina by amount, scaling with character level instead of a baseline 5%. Which, let's be honest, 5% more base health is nothing.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I'm level 90. If I take off all my gear, I'm at like 40,000 health.
Yeah, it's not that big of a... And that's the thing that sucked about a lot of the racials was when they're like base mana or like base health. It's just, yeah, I kind of see why you didn't do max health, but at the same time, base health is so much smaller than like your maximum health that the bonus you get is like really tiny. So really, this is gonna make Tauren tanks like that much stronger.
Yeah. We'll just have to see how high it scales, because, I mean, if it's only like 300 stamina, that's only gonna be like 3,000 hit points, which is not gonna be a whole lot.
Well, if we're looking at like the Draenei buff, which was literally equal to like the best food buff you can get,
Yeah.
I'm guessing that the stamina will probably be the same thing, which stamina food buffs were more than strength and an agility food buffs.
1.85 modifier, so it'd be around 540 stamina versus the 300.
Yeah. So it's still not much, but I think it's still better than 5% base health.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Trolls. Berserking got nerfed. Yeah. That guy's dead.
Eh.
Anyway,
Moving on.
Berserking has been nerfed to 15% down from 20% haste. So, just an overall nerf. But to be honest, Troll's racial was pretty, amazing for some classes. And like I said, now that the breakpoints are gone, 20% is absolutely insane, ridiculous. 15% I could see being more in line. Here's another one that's gimmicky, like the Night Elves. Beast Slain now increases EXP earned from killing beasts by 20% instead of damage dealt versus beast by 5%. This is a racial that just seems really, really situational and is going to be absolutely worthless once you hit level cap.
If it wasn't just by beasts, it would have been okay, because that would have technically increased the amount of gold you get from quests. But XP earned from... Unless they're like going back to EQ style and adding alternate advancement, where you're getting some XP for something past level cap, yeah, it's going to be pretty pointless after about a week.
Psst, Blizzard, add Path of the Titans.
Oh god.
Yeah. That was a thing, alongside the dance studio. I wonder when we're getting that.
Yeah. Yeah, right? So, oh yeah, with
You know what?
Wrath of the Lich King, you'll be able to pick a dance from any race so that you're not stuck with the one. Yeah, that never happened.
You want to know what's funny? Blizzard knows that people still want the dance studio because at BlizzCon last year, when they were showing off the garrisons for Warlords of Draenor, one of the garrison buildings on the list was dance studio, and they put it there just to screw with people. I find that absolutely hilarious. Anyway, last of the inferior races, Undead. Will the Forsaken's cooldown has been increased to 3 minutes. Yeah, I know, the inferior races.
No,
we're still gonna go back up and do,
No, Troll, Deadeye.
Oh, yeah, well, no one cares about the trolls. I did skip over that, my bad. Trolls Deadeye has been removed, which was the 1% experience or expertise with ranged weapons.
There you go.
So, really, the Horde got a lot of losses comparatively to the Alliance, but... Undead, Will the Forsaken cooldown has been increased by 3 minutes up from 2 minutes. generalized nerf, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with the humans. Now, the race that everyone has been waiting for, I'm personally excited for because they are the master race in World of Warcraft, the Dwarves. Crackshot has been removed, 1% expertise with ranged weapons. Pretty much everyone lost their bonuses like that. Some races had them reworked, but mace specialization was 1% expertise with maces, has been replaced with Might of the Mountain. Might of the Mountain is a new racial passive which increases critical bonus damage and healing by 2%. So basically the same thing that the Tauren have. And then Stoneform was buffed to now remove magic and curse effects in addition to poison, disease, and bleed effects, along with a 10% damage reduction over 8 seconds. So
Which is
it
basically
remains
saying,
usable
high affliction warlock, hit me.
because it's usable while CC'd. So basically, now you can get rid of all
Nope.
magic, all curses, all...
Unusable while CC.
Oh. Wow, I read that. My eyes are failing me today. This is not my podcast today. What's going on?
It's because your dwarven eyes just aren't up to the demands of a human world.
You haven't had enough ale
You
today.
listen here. Maybe I've had too much. I started St. Patrick's Day a little early.
Nope, you're a dwarf. It's the other way around. When you're sober, you're blind and dumb. When you're drunk, that's when you're at your peak.
Yeah.
Completely
So,
smoshed on your
really-
ass.
Really, the goal with the racial changes was to bring the old, out-of-date racials up to where the Worgen and Goblin were. Personally, from my viewpoint, they didn't. They did not even come close to like bringing them up to the same like fun and interesting abilities the Goblins and Worgen had. I mean, Worgen have Dark Flight, which is basically you are the mount, which is cool. It doesn't give you a stat bonus, but it's something cool. Goblins have Rocket Jump. You know, they have a bank that they can summon once every 2 hours, I believe. They have a rocket attack that shares a cooldown with a rocket jump. I mean, these are abilities that I personally think are cool and a little bit more dynamic, whereas these updated racials, which were supposed to bring the older races more in line with the newer races, I feel are just really generic, really standard, like 1% here, 1% there, X stat here, X stat there, with the exception being the humans with their ability to choose, like, do I want this secondary stat and this secondary stat, or do I want this one and this one? How do you feel about them? Do you feel that they're brought up to the level of Goblin, Worgen, and Pandaren?
I feel they're brought up more to be less useless. I mean, yeah, you get, your 1% expertise, which if you were not a tank class, you didn't really need a whole lot, and you could pretty much ignore it. It just made it so you didn't. It made it so you could reforge that stat more. But other than that, it was pretty much useless. At least it gave you, these new ones give you something useful to pick your race off of.
Well, also, they made a lot of the racials more beneficial to a number of classes within that race rather than just one or two.
Yeah, like Crackshot. 1% expertise with ranged weapons. Guess who's that? Who that's geared towards? Hunter.
Oh,
Or
what is that?
Expansive Mind with gnomes?
Yeah. Oh, look, you're a rogue, warrior, death knight, or anything but mana. Yeah, that's kind of a pointless racial.
Honestly, I'm let down. I see the point of them being more like broadened to like give a benefit to everyone. Personally, I was expecting something a little bit more crazy and like maybe something more interesting, like I don't know, summoning a siege tank for dwarves, because we're awesome.
Yeah. Or like a mech bot for gnomes.
But oh well, those are the racial changes, and really, they're gonna be more beneficial, but I had my hopes up. All right, so continuing on to the next major change coming in Warlords of Draenor. Many of the healing classes are going to be undergoing some major changes as the way that players take damage and the way that healers heal are being reevaluated. The the last time we saw this was in Cataclysm, where they want to make damage intake a lot lower and healer output a lot lower to make it something you had to more think about. With this, several spells are being changed from instant cast to 1.5 second cast. Healing's being reduced. Health pools are being increased. Do you think that we're going to relive another Cataclysm healing change, wherein they're going to change it and then they're going to instantly revert it due to complaining about a whole new system of gameplay? Or do you think that this is going to be something that's in the long run going to benefit World of Warcraft?
I think.
How will it affect PvP is the real question.
Well, that's actually kind of why they're doing this. Is
Yeah.
because in PvP they're getting rid of the majority of resilience and they're getting rid of the majority of PvP power. So they're boosting health pools. They're making it so right now, because the biggest example they said was in PvP, it kind of sucks when you're playing PvE and you're hitting for like 300, 400,000 damage, and then you go to PvP and those spells are hitting for like 30,000 damage. So they're trying to develop it so PvE and PvP you're going to do about the same amount of damage, but to counter that they're going to increase health pools to a much larger size and they're going to reduce healing. So it's not something where you can like instantly top someone off. It's going to be changed to be more of a who do I heal? Where do I decide to throw a heal? Instead of just, oh, you're topped off, you're topped off, you're topped off.
Well, the question for me then becomes, what about... You said damage is going to be increased and healing's going to be decreased. They're going to have to be really careful on that one, or they're going to way imbalance the, any balance they're attempting to have.
Well, right.
Did I say? Sorry, go ahead.
Health is being increased, not damage. The damage reduction from resilience is being removed, or reduced at least. The biggest thing that I'm worried about with the removal of resilience and increase of health pools and reduction in healing is it going to make healers obsolete in Arena and rated battlegrounds, or is it just going to be and just make it like just stack burst damage like early Cataclysm arenas where no arena team had a healer because it was pointless.
I feel that that's the way it's gonna go, and I don't think that's something Blizzard's intending. But I think they're trying to get back in Vanilla and Burning Crusade, where health loss was more gradual and less of, okay, you're a tank with like 800,000 health, you just lost 600,000 in a single hit, and the healer just topped you back off for 600,000 in a single heal. I think they're trying to get to more of a system where it's like you lose, say, 10% of your health for each attack, but a healer can heal for like 10%, where it's in smaller increments and more gradual over time. I think they're trying to get less of how fast is your reaction time with topping someone off and more of everything's going to be more gradual. You've got more health to work with, so healing and damage isn't going to be as like quick of like, hey, you're at full health, you're dead. It's going to be more of like something you're going to see slowly either go down or go back up.
I could work with that. I'm just worried because we've seen this in the past where it's like, okay, well, if you bring a healer to an arena, you're dead because there's nothing that healer can do, and because you don't have a second DPS, you can't out DPS them.
That is a good point. I believe they've also, well, they're making a lot of changes to the PvP system overall in general. Like, did you know that in Warlords of Draenor, Cyclone's going to be dispellable?
That will be nice, because Cyclone is a broken-ass CC.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful, but they're making a lot of changes overall in general. Like, I believe all interrupts will share a cooldown of some kind. Silences will be like cast time. Like, they're changing a lot of stuff to cast time. Like, there's so many PvP changes, and honestly, I don't think my head's in the right like place today. Uh, there's a lot of changes that are happening, and like PvP is like this huge overhaul that really is not going to be anything like what we see right now in Mists of Pandaria.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited, because really, I haven't been that into PvP in WoW since Burning Crusade, because it's like, okay, well, um, Burning Crusade had its niche combos, like, Rogue Mage, which are still like, Rogue Mage is like the only lasting combo that's gone throughout the expansions really well, because all of the CCs. But um, our Burning Crusade arena combo was Rogue Druid, because we had permanent CC.
I think Rogue Priest was really good too. I think Rogue comboed really well with a lot of stuff.
It did, because it had um, it has what, 4 stuns, blind, disarm, which thankfully is going poof in Warlords of Draenor. Um, yeah, it just had a lot of CC that was not on the same diminishing return as anybody else's CC. So as long as you weren't comboing it with either another rogue or a warrior, you were fine. You had permanent lockout, because all you needed was one other CC, and you could completely reset your chain.
That actually brings up another thing to talk about is a lot of CCs are being put on the same diminishing returns now. Like, I believe I read that Horrify is going to be on the same diminishing return as Normalized Fear now, and that Fear mechanics are going to be shorter in PvP than they are in PvE. So, like, a maximum duration for, say, a PvE Fear would be 8 seconds. A maximum duration for a PvP Fear would be 6 seconds.
Which is nice, because Fear, if you don't have your trinket up, you are going to get perma-feared by a warlock.
There's
And
two
it's
things in PvP oh, sorry, go.
um the reason why I hate Fear over every other CC is because it doesn't keep you in the same spot. It will run you off into stupid places. Like, I've had arenas where I'll get feared in the Blade's Edge arena. I'll be in the center of the fucking bridge, and the fear will last maximum duration. It will run me off the bridge, down the ramp, around the corner, and into a tiny little hole in the underside of the bridge where I get stuck. Because, gnomes can fit in tiny little spaces, but when the fear wears off, you can't get back out. So there's absolutely nothing I
It
can
seems
do.
like some.
Permanent CC. Wow, that's OP.
Yeah, and being a Death Knight, you can't really attack by range, so all he did was sit there out of my attack range and kill me, because I couldn't do anything. Can't get my health back because I can't hit him, and can't do any damage to him because I can't hit him.
What, you can't death grip him over there and swing a few times?
Nope, he was out of my line of sight, but I was not out of his line of sight.
Anyway, honestly, when it comes to PvP, the two things I hate the most, and it's really something that it started to rear its ugly head in Burning Crusade and it became worse over the years, is CC and mobility. Those are the two things I hate. I hate being CC'd and being forced to sit there and watch my character die and having no way of saving myself. And I hate mobility where I can kick the crap out of a monk and he can cover so much distance in such a short period of time that I can't catch up to him, and he will either have healed himself to full with healing globes or run away before I can ever get to them. Those are the two things I hate in PvP, is because there are things that are completely out of my control. And so with Blizzard cutting down on CCs, combining a bunch of the diminishing returns into more generalized groups, I'm really hoping that this is the first step into heading back to PvP that's more akin to Burning Crusade and Vanilla, where it's not completely based on CC, where CC becomes something that you can't rely on completely, and that you really have to like focus. Something that you can only get out once in a while, and that's what I'd really like to see.
Well, that kind of makes me worry what's going to happen with rogues, because as I play a rogue in every game I ever play, uh, I know that CC is a major part of what makes rogue able to PvP. At least it was in Wrath, and I can only assume that it's continued on. How do you think they're going to handle that?
I think
Go ahead.
I think that rogues would probably move like I said, CC is still gonna exist, and I think rogues are gonna still be the master of the stun. It's just that instead of being built around the idea that stun locking's your big thing, it's gonna be built around the idea that stunning at situations is gonna be a lot more helpful. So it's gonna still stun. I think is still gonna be a good thing in the game. I think it's just gonna be something that you really have to now think about when you want to use it, instead of just stun locking, waiting a few seconds for the DR to go away, and then going back to stun locking. I mean, stun is still situational now, but I think Blizzard's moving to a point where CC and stun are a lot more situational than they are now, and that the big thing is like, when do I use it instead of I primarily use it.
Yeah, I think making it so rogues can't perma-lock you out is going to be a good thing, because I mean, even now with the massive amounts of diminishing returns, like if you stun someone, okay, your next stun's going to last half the time, and then your next stun's going to last half that time, and then you got to wait 12 seconds before you can do it again, but blind is on a separate diminishing return. So all you gotta do is blind them, wait until you're out of combat, re-stealth, sap them, and then, hey, look, I can do it again. That is going to change. That is going to be a good change. All the rogues in the game are gonna fucking hate it, but it's going to make the game playable in PvP standpoint for other classes.
Stuns win games. Let's be completely honest. CC right now is so important, and it wins you so many battles, but it's not fun for the people on the receiving end. When I have literally no control of my character and no way to defend myself, what fun is there in PvP? And I think the biggest thing is that, when do you stop and go, I'm doing this for balance, or look at it and go, I'm doing this to make the game more fun in general for everyone? Being the stun locker, yeah, it's fun for you because you're just outright demolishing whoever you're fighting. Being the stun lockee, it's not fun at all. It's gotten to the point where if a rogue's geared enough and I can sit there and watch him, I can just go, well, I might as well just walk away from my computer because I'm dead. There's nothing I can do to really counteract this.
Yeah.
And that's not fun.
It gets to the point where if you're playing against a well-played or well-geared, because and if, you don't even have to play a rogue good. If it has enough gear to kill you in the duration of the stuns, then it's going to do it, because all you have to do is stun them and mash backstab, or mash mutilate if you're that spec. Whatever, you stun them and mash one button. You basically become an arcane mage with a stun, basically. And when you're on the receiving end of that, you can't do anything. It's fun if you can do something. Like, if you're getting shit rolled by an arcane mage and they're just mashing the one button, but you're dying, at least you're fighting back in some way. Even if, you're permaslowed from something or you can't get to them, you're still controlling your character. When you're fighting a rogue or a warlock or whatever, you're basically just watching a movie. Because you're going, okay, well, I can't do anything, might as well break out the popcorn.
Yeah, especially when, like, you've got a trinket. Okay, let's say you got a trinket. That's a several minute cooldown. You pop that, and if you pop it at the wrong time, you're screwed. Like, you're absolutely screwed. Like, you have to know exactly when to pop it, and then even then, that's a cooldown, so it's not like you're going to have that for every fight. It's going to get to the point where you're going to be in a position where you can't do anything. Some classes have skills that help with stun, and you can use while CC'd. Yeah, it's still their cooldowns. So very frequently, depending on the battleground, you're in a position where you have no way to fight back against rogues and CC or like warlocks and fears and such and so forth.
Well, as stun locking is one of the major things of rogue PvPing, do you think they'll buff rogues since they're making that a less of a thing?
I think that rogues, and this is speculation, I think rogues will take a step more towards focusing on poisons, which, as you said, stuns are a big part of the rogue class, but another big part of the rogue class that really's taken a backseat for a long time are poisons, bleeds, dirty tactics. Like, stun's part of that, but I think that with a moving away from CC, that we'll see bleeds and poisons taking a bigger shine in the expansion.
That would actually be really nice, because I know a lot of rogues that just use the same 2 poisons on their daggers all the time. It would be nice to see more poisons added to the game so you have something situational that you can use. Like, oh, I'm in an arena versus a mage and a warlock. I have, this poison that reduces damage of our or uh, damage by spell damage, and then this poison that um, maybe increases casting time. I think they had like mind-numbing poison that increased casting time by 20%. You could use those instead, or if you went up against a mage warrior combo, you could use something that I don't know, makes larger weapons, or maybe just slows attack speed or like reduces haste, and then the flavor text would be like weakens your arms so you can't swing as fast.
Yeah, well, I'm saying that I think that if CC is being toned down, the class that's been focused primarily on CC is probably going to be refocused to poisons, stealth, stuff like that. I think that's going to be a big refocusing of the class.
Yeah, I see either a rebalance of rogues or hell, I mean we've seen complete reworks of classes before.
Yeah. So we are starting to run a little long, and there are a few more things I want to talk about. Recently, for a long time we've known that when Warlords of Draenor ships, you're not going to be able to fly until the first major content patch, so 6.1. Recently, on Twitter, developers come out saying that you're not going to be able to fly at the beginning of the expansion, and they're going to wait and see how that works out. So, and as with many things in the community, this has just been blown up. Like, people are freaking out. And I can't say if they're the vocal minority, the vocal majority. I'm not going to say who they are because I honestly feel that that's a cop-out to defend your side of the discussion. Personally, I'm interested in this, and I'm kind of happy that the developers are instead now going, well, the plan was you're not going to be able to fly to 6.1, but now we're going to just take a wait and see attitude and see how people react to it, see how the game changes because you don't have flying, and then go from there. I think that's a good thing because when you have a flying mount, you can easily fly over any and all obstacles in your path. It creates a world where, because people aren't traveling on ground, that everyone's just flying from point A to B directly without having to go over any obstacles. So now you've got a world that feels a lot more empty inside because people are just pretty much going from A to B. Now you're going to have a world where people are forced to run around the ground. You're going to see more people out in the environment. They're going to be moving slower. You're going to be on the ground level, so the game's going to be developed for ground mounts specifically. And as we know, Warlords of Draenor is a game that's focused heavily on exploration, discovery, trying to have a more open world, like sandboxy feel to it. I personally think the idea of no flying is fantastic. What do you guys think?
I, other than previous content that you're just trying to blow through to get to what is current, I hate flying. I mean, yeah, sure, I still fly around. I still fly around the Pandaland because I have one and I can. But really, it would be more enjoyable if I was on the ground. It was more fun before I had the flying.
And see, that's something I agree with. Now, I see a lot of people use the argument of, well, if they don't want to fly, they don't have to. That's not the point. If you give us a tool and it's more beneficial, we're going to use the more beneficial tool. We may not like it, but we're going to use it. The problem is flying has personally, in my opinion, outstayed its welcome. It was a cool feature for Burning Crusade because the Burning Crusade was designed around the idea that, hey, you're on this broken world. There's sections of the world you can't get to without flying. So it had flying in mind. Ever since then, flying's like constantly been tacked on because I feel that Blizzard kind of had this mindset of, oh, we have to have flying, otherwise people feel like it's a waste of money. Really, what's more important, having your flying skill or having a game that's designed well? And I think that with flying, it makes it really hard from a game design point to make content that you can't just skip right over because you have the ability to fly. And that's, I don't know, I'm really biased on this. I don't understand why people are so upset about losing flying when if the game was built around not having flying and you have flying, it really ruins your gameplay experience and just makes it so you can lazily ignore half of the challenge that's related to the game. And it doesn't even promote exploration. People have said, I've got flying now, I explore more than I ever have before. Bull crap. You fly around in
Get more
circles
exploring
gathering.
achievements.
Yeah, because it's so easy to just fly over like, oh, I discovered this area, I discovered this area. How many times are you on your flying mount and you go, oh, there's a cave down there. I wonder what's inside that cave. And you fly down and you do it. I'm not saying that those people don't exist, but with flying, you're going from point A to point B. You're not running along the ground. You're not running past caves going, oh, I've never seen that before. I wonder what's in there. You're not running past like broken down caravans guarded by, you know, NPCs with like chests. You're going from point A to point B. It's
Possible idea of how they could fix that. Um, there used to be this thing, called the Flying Griffins. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's been around for a while. Using the Griffins to get from one place to another. I mean, I know it's a little outdated, but we could take something like that and, make it so you didn't have to necessarily discover that automatically beforehand, and use that if you want to get from one place to another, rather than flying over all the content on your own mount going, oh, I just want to drop down and grab this.
See, I agree with that. Flight masters have been so pointless for so long now because everyone's got a flying mount, and because of gold inflation, epic flying's not even expensive anymore. Like every single one of my characters has 310 flying because it's so cheap.
Yeah. I think, well, really, the flight masters are basically the I need to go AFK while I fly to this raid entrance. That's all they are at the moment. If they got rid of, I would personally be happy if they made it so, if nothing else, you had to get to max level before you could fly in that expansions area. So like, if you went to Lich King, you had to be 80 or 85 or whatever it was. I think it was 80. Or if you went to, Pandaland, you had to be 90 before you could get flying there. No. What they did in Pandaland was if you got to the shrine, you could buy the flying there, which really all you needed was one character there or a couple guildies with a warlock.
Actually, it does require 90 now.
Oh, it does? That's good.
Mhm.
Because basically all we
But-
did was Trist abused the glitch with what is it? Like you could jump up and then jump forward with demonic wings. Demonic leap, that's what it was. He abused that to climb up the wall into the shrine before 90 and then summoned us all in.
I don't even know why you do that. Just go to the wall to the west in Kunlai Summit, and you can literally jump off that wall into the Vale and run over to the shrines. And
There-
because you didn't unlock it normally, there's no monsters in there.
When we did it, it was like the day of release. There was an invisible wall there when we did it.
But what about the idea of the flight masters rather than having to say, hey, this is where I want to go. I know how to get there because I've been there before. If the Griffins are supposed to be pre-trained, shouldn't you be able to say, this is an available flight path, I should be able to go here? I mean, it may cut out a little content, however, you can do the same on a flying mount and cut out a lot of content.
You know, at one point, and people say this is a bug, developers say this is a bug, I call it bullshit. At one point, it was in World of Warcraft where I believe it was early Mists, where when you had a character, flight points in the old world content automatically unlocked as you leveled up.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if they were to use a system where it's a multi-tier system, say you can either discover the flight point, you can unlock the flight point through your questing, or you can unlock the flight point through your level. I think a system like that would be pretty nice, because then you don't have to go. Yeah, because you won't have to discover if it made sense story-wise. And it's like, hey, you need to like go over to this area now and go talk to the flight master. He'll get you over enemy lines. Or like, oh, you're already out-leveled this content. Well, let's just make it convenient for you. Or maybe you like to explore, so hey, you found the flight point early. Something like that, I think, would be really helpful in Warlords of Draenor.
It would be nice.
I like the idea.
I think that would probably be the best option for them to go. Lock out flying and just unlock flight points as you go, depending on your quest, your level, or whether you find it on your own.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that flying has kind of become a plague on World of Warcraft, and that it's really ruined a lot of the running around, seeing like other people, seeing stuff like from the ground point of view. Because when you're flying over everything, like it breaks the immersion. It takes away from exploration because yeah, you can see a lot of stuff from like above, but there's a lot of things you're missing when you're actually running along on the ground.
Yeah, it's hard to
It's
get
just-
storyline when you're in the air.
Yeah. And it really breaks storyline when it's like, hey, we need you to break through this line of orcs to get a message to so-and-so for reinforce. Oh, you just flew right over the enemy. I don't know why we didn't think of that.
Though I would like to see, maybe not in this expansion, but in some expansion, kind of an entire quest line devoted to aerial tactics. I think that would be really interesting to see. And to explain away why NPCs don't use flying as a method of getting messages across or the like.
Yeah, it's
Like
kind of
counter flight maneuvers.
it's really actually kind of funny how there are a lot of times where you'll get a quest and it's like, we need you to deliver word of such and such to so and so over here, but the enemy's between us, and you just kind of like, oh, I'll just fly right over it. no enemy problems for me. And they of course have no anti-air. What a wonderful army they have.
Yeah.
I
Everybody's
don't
on
know.
the ground,
I feel
but you know
that
what? Fuck it. Wow.
another thing that's really gone missing that I feel is another big detriment is, remember Ogrilla?
Mm-hmm.
How limited was flying there? One, if you're in the demon area, you had to constantly be moving, otherwise you got shot out of the sky. Two, if you flew too high, there were dragons who'd knock you off your mount and kill you. There was restrictions on your
no.
flying in that zone.
It made it interesting. You had to pay attention to how high you were and where you were at all times, because if you, at that time, like, before currently now, where if you get hit by one of those stupid things, you just get bumped a little bit and take like 2,000 damage. Whoop you fucking do. But back then, if you were doing those quests and you got hit by that bomb, it knocked you off your mount. So, if you get hit for 2,000 damage and you only have like 8,000 health, that's a lot. And then you're also falling, so you're taking another like 1,500 to 3,000 falling damage, and now you have a bunch of demons chasing you. Good luck.
Yeah, see,
Would
and
we
that's the
want
thing
to
is,
implement parachutes of this sort?
I don't think that's something like what I was getting at was back in Burning Crusade where flying was implemented. There were constant threats that went against you and your flying. Like, flying wasn't just absolutely safe at all times. Like, if there was a area that you had to have flying to get to, there were some threats to flying around. Like Netherwing Ledge, there were threats with dragons flying around the sky. Oh, Gorilla, there were threats with the dragons, and then the demon fell cannons. So it's not like you just had free reign of wherever you want to fly. There were threats, but with Wrath of the Lich King, the only like in-air threat I could think of was in Storm Peaks, the minefield with the cannons that would shoot you down. Like, that's the only thing that was really like, oh, flying's dangerous. With Cataclysm, there wasn't anything like that. Flying had like no danger at all. It was just point A to point B. Mist of the Pandaria is the same way. There's no like restrictions on flying. There's like no dangers to flying. It really is just with a flying mount, you can go from point A to point B without anything stopping you. And I think that not only does that break away from the immersion, that really dumbs down gameplay and ruins a lot of like carefully thought out mechanics that Blizzard's put into the game.
What I think they need to re-add is if an NPC punts you while you're on a mount, it fucking punts you off.
Yeah.
Not just bumps
Although,
you back a couple of feet.
How would that work with druids, though, in their flight form?
It used to knock them out of flight form.
well, see, honestly, I'd give druids a free pass though, because like that's a class-specific trait. Like, that's something unique to druids. Yeah, it's a little overpowered.
Just like not
but
having to leave flight form to pick up an herb on the ground in an area that you know you're gonna die in.
there's a mount that does that now.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I mean, OP, but still kind of cool.
Yeah, it's Urbion's no longer druid specific. There's a mount that you can get for like anywhere from 16,000 to 40,000 gold that you can herb while you're in it, and it's a flying mount. So
It's handy.
yeah, but really, at the end of the day, I don't want flying in World of Warcraft unless it's heavily like thought about in the game
Restricted?
design. Restricted, yeah. It
I-
needs to be.
I'd be happy with previous content flying. Like, if you want to burn through Lich King content, just do it. But current content flying needs to be heavily restricted. Only usable in
if
certain
you're gonna
areas
have-
because, the quest requires it, or stuff like that.
When
If
used,
you have
it
too
needs to
many
have danger.
crybabies, you may also want to lower just make it so that the speed is like what mounts used to be at, because your mount's not used to this or that.
Oh god,
Because I
60%
feel too
flying
many
speed.
people.
Oh god.
Yeah, I remember the days of that. Actually, when I got my epic flying mount, it was the either the day after or within a week at least of when they changed the mounts from 60% speed to 150% speed, and I was
Oh.
like, oh, huh.
Don't even get me started. I bought my epic riding the day before they made it cheaper. Like, literally, I walked up to the merchant, went, "Here, take my 1,000 gold." And then the next day they were like, "Oh yeah, now it's only 200 gold."
That was
Oh,
back in
the
the days
normal
when
flying.
1,000 mattered.
Yeah. But
Nowadays,
like I said,
you
with
go to the bathroom and spend 1,000.
inflation for you, that's freaking inflation. But like I said, without restrictions, flying's gotten out of hand. Like I was just thinking about that. You know the Arakoa area in shit. What was that forest? It's south of Hellfire. It's like attached to
Terracar?
yeah, Terracar. Remember the Arakoa daily quest hub up there?
Yeah.
How you had to watch out where you were flying because there's stuff that freaking decimate you.
Yeah. It's like, hey, you're not supposed to be flying up here. Get off.
And I
The
would
point
like
is,
to see a. It would just be cool to see a dragon flying around with a similar nature to how the Fell Reaver used to be. Just, oh, you're not where I want you, chomp.
that'd be pretty cool. But like I said, everyone has their own opinions on flying. Personally, I don't. I don't think it really has a point in current game content. I agree with what Tana said. If it's previous expansion, sure, why not? But in current expansion, without heavy restrictions, it gets to the point where it's out of hand and really it ruins the game experience for you. No matter how much you want to say that flying improves your experience, it may improve your quality of life in game, but you're losing out on a bunch of what makes the game fun. So really, today's discussion went on for quite a while. Uh, about what time are we at?
A little under 2 hours. Well,
Yeah, so we
I'd,
should probably
I'd
wrap it
say,
up here.
I'd say probably about an hour and 40.
Yeah, so I'd say this is a good place to stop. There are a few minor topics that I want to discuss, like the Hearthstone Steed and the content gap, but really we're just about out of time. So I want to thank Vel for being on here as a guest again and joining us in our conversation with the change to World of Warcraft. Uh, I want to thank Tana here for, of course, being my co-host. Or maybe I'm the co-host. I don't know. I'm too drunk to tell.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Insert
So,
dwarf joke here.
thank you all for listening. This is still a new thing for us. We don't have all the details of the podcast hammered out. It's really we're just kind of going as we think of everything. We have a generalized like thought process, and then we go from there. So, thank you again for listening to us. Feedback's fantastic. If you have a differing opinion on what we may have talked about today, please leave a comment in the comment sections down below. If you like this video, be sure to like it, favorite it, share it with your friends. Thank you again for listening, and have a good day. Have a good St. Patrick's Day. I'm going to go get myself some ale.
You would. Red?
Of course. It's my favorite. A good amber red ale.
There
It's an
you
easy
go.
question.
There you go. Anywho, yeah, have a good St. Patrick's. Like, favorite, share, and goodbye.
Have fun and don't get arrested.
Oh, let's have the fun.